I woke up expecting a normal morning. Instead, two women with long, elegant ears were sitting beside my bed, quietly watching me like I was the most interesting thing in the galaxy. One of them was an alien queen. The other was her daughter, and somehow, they had come all the way across space for me. Something soft touched the edge of his awareness before his eyes even opened. Not a sound exactly, not a movement either, more like the strange feeling that someone was quietly standing nearby and waiting. His brain, still drifting somewhere between sleep and reality, attempted to ignore it. It suggested several comfortable explanations. Perhaps it was the neighbor upstairs. Perhaps the old ventilation system was making noises again. Perhaps he had simply left the television on. Then he heard a whisper. "Is he malfunctioning?" Another whisper answered immediately, calmer, thoughtful. "No, humans require a longer reboot period after sleep." His eyes opened. For a few seconds his brain stared at the ceiling and calmly refused to process anything else. That was a perfectly normal ceiling. Slight crack near the corner. Faint stain from an unfortunate coffee spill last year. Everything about it screamed ordinary, peaceful, safe. Then his brain remembered the whisper. Slowly, very slowly, he turned his head. Two women were sitting beside the bed. They were not moving. They were not speaking. They were simply watching him with the patient focus of scientists observing a rare experiment. He blinked. Both of them looked almost perfectly human. Smooth skin, calm expressions, long hair that rested naturally across their shoulders. But from the sides of their heads rose something that absolutely did not belong in a normal morning situation. Long, elegant ears, gently curved and slightly pointed, like delicate leaves shaped by careful design. He blinked again. The younger one leaned forward slightly, her eyes bright with curiosity. "Oh," she whispered, "now he is active." He stared at them for a moment, then quietly pulled the blanket up to his chin. "Okay," he said slowly. "I'm going to assume this is still part of the dream." The younger one tilted her head. Her long ear twitched slightly. "Dream?" she asked. "Yes," he replied, nodding confidently. "Because the alternative is that two very polite aliens broke into my apartment and decided to watch me sleep." She glanced at the older woman beside her. "Is that impolite?" The older woman considered the question seriously. "For humans," she said, "apparently yes." The man sighed and rubbed his face. "Good," he muttered. "At least we're establishing some ground rules." He sat up carefully, still holding the blanket like a shield of questionable effectiveness. Up close, the differences were even clearer. Their ears were not the only unusual detail. Their eyes carried a depth that felt focused, as if they were constantly measuring the world in ways humans didn't quite understand. The older woman held herself with calm authority. Every movement was precise, controlled, almost regal without trying. The younger one, however, was practically vibrating with interest. "Your resting posture was inefficient," she said eagerly. "You rotated 3 times and made a sound similar to snoring," the man interrupted. "Yes," she said, delighted. "We recorded it." He froze. "You recorded it." She proudly lifted a small, silver device no larger than a coin. The man stared at it. "Fantastic," he said. "My first contact with alien life, and the first thing you collect is my snoring." The younger woman nodded enthusiastically. It was very impressive. He slowly looked toward the older woman. "Please tell me you're the one in charge." "I am," she replied calmly. "Good," he said, pointing at the device. "Because your assistant is blackmail material waiting to happen." The younger one looked confused. "Blackmail?" The older woman gently placed a hand on her arm. "Later," she said. The man swung his legs off the bed, still watching them carefully. "So," he said, clearing his throat, "before this gets any stranger, I have a few questions." Both women straightened slightly, attentive. He pointed toward their ears. "First, I'm guessing those aren't decorative." The younger one immediately shook her head. "No." "Great," he said. "Second question." He gestured around the room. "How exactly did two extraterrestrials walk into my apartment without me noticing?" The older woman answered calmly, "We arrived while you were sleeping." "Yes," he said, "that part I figured out." She continued without hesitation. "Our technology allows silent atmospheric entry and localized spatial access." He stared at her. "You teleported into my bedroom." "In simplified terms," she said. He inhaled slowly. Then he nodded. "All right," he said. "That's unsettling, but at least it's efficient." The younger woman leaned forward again, studying his face with fascination. "You are responding with humor," she observed. "Our models predicted that." "Your models?" he asked. "Yes." He squinted at them. "Hold on." A thought slowly formed in his mind, large and uncomfortable. "You didn't just randomly appear here, did you?" The older woman's expression remained calm. "No." The younger one smiled brightly. "We came here for you." The room became very quiet. He stared at both of them for several seconds, then he pointed at himself. "You crossed space for this guy." The younger one nodded happily. "Yes." He leaned back slightly and looked at the ceiling again. "Wow," he murmured. "The galaxy really needs better decision-making." The first thing he noticed when his eyes opened was that someone had moved his chair. He knew it instantly because the chair had a very specific personality. It leaned slightly to the left, complained loudly when anyone sat on it, and had been standing near the window for the past 2 years like a loyal but uncomfortable roommate. Now it was positioned directly in front of the bed, and someone was sitting on it. Actually, two someones. He blinked once, then squinted at the scene in front of him. The room was quiet except for the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen and the distant city traffic outside. Sunlight slipped through the curtains in thin lines that painted the floor gold. In that light sat two women who looked like they had wandered in from a world that obeyed slightly different rules. The older one sat upright, calm and composed, hands folded neatly in her lap. Her posture carried a kind of effortless authority that made the cheap wooden chair look like a throne by association. Her long hair rested across her shoulders, and from the sides of her head extended elegant, unmistakably non-human ears that curved upward with graceful precision. Beside her sat a younger woman who clearly had no intention of behaving with the same quiet dignity. She was leaning forward with intense interest, elbows resting on her knees, studying him like he was an interactive museum exhibit. Both of them were watching him wake up. He stared back at them for a full 10 seconds. Then he slowly pulled the blanket up to his chin. "Morning," he said cautiously. The younger woman immediately brightened. "Good, you are conscious again." "Again?" he asked. "Yes," she replied. "You briefly woke up earlier, looked at us, said nope, and returned to sleep." He closed his eyes and rubbed his face. "That sounds like something I would do." The older woman nodded slightly. "Our observations suggest humans often reject unfamiliar realities when they first encounter them. That's because unfamiliar realities usually don't involve strangers sitting 3 feet away from my pillow," he said. The younger woman tilted her head, her long ear twitching thoughtfully. "You are handling this very calmly." "I'm not calm," he replied. "I'm just too tired to panic properly." He pushed himself upright and glanced at the small digital clock on the nightstand. 7:12 a.m. "Great," he muttered. "Aliens arrive and I still have to wake up early." The younger woman turned to the older one with quiet excitement. "He is using humor again." "I noticed," the older one replied. He pointed at them. "Please don't analyze my personality like I'm a science project." The younger woman lifted a thin metallic tablet from her lap and tapped it. "Too late." He stared at the device. "Is that a notebook?" "It records behavioral data," she said proudly. "So yes," he sighed, "alien notebook." He swung his legs off the bed and stretched. Neither of them looked away. "Do humans usually perform physical calibration routines after sleep?" The younger one asked. "You mean stretching?" "Yes. Only if our backs are still attached," he said. She typed something into the tablet. "Back attachment appears important," she murmured. The older woman observed quietly, her sharp gaze studying every small movement he made. You seem less alarmed than most humans would be, she said. That's because my brain hasn't finished loading yet, he replied. Give it 10 minutes. He stood up and shuffled toward the kitchen doorway. You two want coffee? The younger woman looked immediately intrigued. What is coffee? He stopped walking and slowly turned around. You traveled across space? Yes. You can teleport? Yes. But you don't know what coffee is. She shook her head. He placed a hand on the wall for emotional support. Okay, he said softly, this galaxy is clearly not ready. The younger woman leaned forward eagerly. Is coffee dangerous? Extremely, he replied. Without it, humans become unpredictable. She gasped slightly. More unpredictable. He nodded gravely. Much more. She typed rapidly on her tablet. The older woman finally spoke again. We did not come here for beverages. That's disappointing, he said, because beverages are my strongest diplomatic skill. The younger one looked up from her tablet. You understand diplomacy? No, he said, but I understand awkward conversations, which is basically the same thing. The younger woman looked delighted by this. The older woman, however, leaned forward slightly, her calm gaze sharpening. We came because our civilization has been studying humanity for a long time. He crossed his arms. That sounds mildly concerning. We are particularly interested in one trait, she continued, and that is, your species frequently makes decisions that contradict logic. He nodded. Yes, that's accurate. Yet those decisions sometimes produce positive outcomes. Also accurate. The younger woman pointed at him excitedly. Our predictive models identified individuals who demonstrate this pattern frequently. He frowned slightly, and she smiled brightly. You are one of them. The room went silent. He stared at her, then he pointed at himself. You crossed the galaxy for this decision-making system. The younger one nodded. Yes. He sighed deeply. Fantastic, he muttered. Then he looked at the older woman, just to confirm. Yes, you didn't pick me by accident. No, he rubbed his temples slowly. Wow, he said. Your civilization must be in serious trouble. For several long seconds, he simply stood there in the middle of his apartment, staring at the two visitors as if they might suddenly transform into something far easier to understand, like delivery drivers or extremely dedicated pranksters. Unfortunately, they remained exactly the same, calm, patient, and equipped with those unmistakably long ears that gently curved upward from their heads like elegant antennae, designed by an artist rather than an engineer. He scratched the back of his head. So let me review the situation, he said slowly. Two extraterrestrial visitors appear in my apartment before breakfast, claim they studied humanity for years, and now inform me that I've been selected because my decision-making is confusing. The younger one nodded eagerly. Yes, that's not a compliment, he replied. It is for us, she said. The older woman watched him quietly, her expression thoughtful rather than defensive. Our civilization values precision, she said. Our decisions are based on calculation, probability, and logical models. That sounds exhausting, he said. The younger one tilted her head. Why? Because sometimes you just want to order pizza without calculating the social consequences. She typed something into the thin silver tablet she had been holding since he woke up. He leaned over slightly. You're writing that down, aren't you? Yes. What did you write exactly? She read from the screen. Humans engage in spontaneous nutritional decisions influenced by emotional satisfaction. He blinked. That's the most scientific description of pizza I've ever heard. The older woman's gaze moved slowly around the room as if examining every detail. The small stack of books near the couch, the crooked picture frame on the wall, the half-empty mug sitting on the table. You live alone, she observed. Most days, he said. The younger one looked up quickly. Most days. Sometimes my neighbor borrows my ladder and forgets to return it for 3 weeks. She looked confused again. Is the ladder a family member? No. She typed something else, he sighed. This notebook is going to get humanity banned from the galaxy. The younger woman looked genuinely concerned. That was not our intention. He waved his hand dismissively. I'm joking. She turned to the older woman. He jokes frequently. I noticed, the older woman replied calmly. He walked to the kitchen and poured himself a glass of water, trying to give his brain a moment to catch up with reality. The problem was that every time he turned around, the situation was still real. Two aliens were sitting in his apartment, watching him, studying him, and apparently trusting him with something important. He leaned against the counter and looked at them again. So, he said, you mentioned something earlier, predictive models. The younger one brightened immediately. Yes, our analysis examined millions of human behavioral records. That sounds invasive. It was anonymous. That sounds slightly less invasive. The older woman folded her hands. Our research focused on individuals who demonstrate a specific balance of traits, which are emotional flexibility, improvisation, humor under stress. He raised an eyebrow. You mean people who make things up as they go? In simplified terms, she said. He took a sip of water. Congratulations, he said. You've just described half the planet. The younger one shook her head. No, most humans panic under unusual circumstances. He looked around the room again. You mean like waking up next to extraterrestrial royalty? Yes, she said. He considered that for a moment. Fair point. The older woman leaned forward slightly. Our society is approaching an important transition. And that involves me how? The younger woman looked at him carefully. Because you are not reacting the way our models expected. He frowned. Is that good or bad? It is interesting. He pointed toward her tablet again. That word usually means someone's about to get into trouble. The older woman's calm expression softened slightly. Not trouble. Then what? Opportunity. He stared at her for a long moment. You know, he said slowly, most opportunities don't arrive through bedroom teleportation. The younger one immediately looked intrigued. Is there a preferred human arrival method? He thought about it. Doorbell. She typed again. Doorbells appear culturally important. He looked at the ceiling. I'm never going to live this down. The older woman finally stood, moving with the quiet grace of someone used to command. We did not come to disrupt your life unnecessarily. That's reassuring, he said. But your perspective may help guide someone very important. He crossed his arms. Who? The younger one closed her tablet and stood as well. Then she pointed directly at herself. Me. He blinked. Oh, he said. He looked at the older woman, then back at the younger one. Then he sighed. Okay, he muttered. I officially have no idea how my life turned into this conversation. The room had become strangely quiet, the kind of silence that usually appeared after someone said something so unexpected that the brain needed a few extra seconds to reboot. He leaned against the kitchen counter and looked at the two of them again, making sure reality had not quietly replaced them with something more normal while he was distracted. It had not. The older woman still stood with calm authority, as composed as someone announcing the weather. The younger one, apparently the princess of an interstellar civilization, stood across from him with the kind of hopeful curiosity normally reserved for children meeting a new pet. And somehow they were both waiting for his answer. He rubbed his forehead slowly. All right, he said. Let me check if I understand this correctly. The younger one nodded eagerly. You're telling me that an advanced alien civilization, he continued, capable of traveling across space, studying entire planets and teleporting into people's bedrooms. Yes, she said. Needs advice from a guy whose biggest achievement this week was fixing a broken toaster. The older woman tilted her head slightly. That toaster is functioning now. Yes, he said, pointing at her. But it took 3 attempts and a motivational speech. The younger one looked fascinated. You motivate machines. No, he sighed. I threaten them. She quickly opened her tablet again and typed something. He squinted at her. Please tell me you didn't just write humans negotiate with appliances. She read the screen. Humans use intimidation to repair technology. He looked at the ceiling again. Fantastic, we're doomed. The older woman stepped closer, her calm gaze steady. Our research showed that humans possess a rare balance. You make decisions using logic, but you also consider emotions, instinct, humor. That's because we panic creatively, he replied. Exactly, she said. The younger princess nodded enthusiastically. Our society removed uncertainty from most decisions centuries ago. That sounds efficient. It is, the older woman replied, but it also made us rigid. The princess lowered the tablet slowly. We study humans because you adapt quickly, even when situations are confusing. He gestured around the room. You mean like this morning? Yes. He thought about that for a moment. Then he walked past them toward the window and looked outside. The city looked exactly the same as it always did. Cars moving through traffic, people walking to work, someone arguing loudly with a parking meter. Normal life. Behind him stood two visitors from a civilization so far away that even light would take years to reach it, and for some strange reason they trusted him. He turned back toward them. All right, he said. Let me ask you something. Both of them focused immediately. If your civilization is so advanced, why send the queen and the princess personally? The older woman answered calmly. Because some questions cannot be studied from a distance. The princess added softly, and because understanding people requires meeting them. He studied her expression for a moment. She looked curious, yes, but also uncertain, like someone standing at the edge of a decision she had never faced before. Suddenly, the whole situation felt a little less ridiculous. He exhaled slowly. Okay, he said. First piece of advice. The princess straightened immediately. Never start an important conversation by teleporting into someone's bedroom. She nodded seriously. That seems reasonable. Second, he continued, if you want to understand humans, you have to actually spend time with them, talk to them, listen to them, eat terrible food with them. What is terrible food? She asked. You'll find out. The older woman watched the exchange quietly, a small, thoughtful smile appearing for the first time. And the third piece of advice? She asked. He thought about it for a moment. Then he shrugged. Relax a little. The princess blinked. Relax? Yes, he said. You're studying humans like we're a complicated puzzle. Aren't you? She asked. He laughed. Not really. Most of us are just improvising. She seemed to consider that deeply. Improvising, she repeated. Yep. Nobody actually knows what they're doing. We just pretend. A faint shimmer appeared in the air beside them, like invisible glass catching sunlight. The shape of a doorway slowly unfolded from thin air, revealing a glimpse of something impossible beyond it. Stars, distant structures, the quiet glow of a civilization waiting somewhere far beyond Earth. The princess looked back at him. Will you come visit our world someday? He crossed his arms and raised an eyebrow. Do you have coffee there? She glanced at the queen. The queen answered calmly. We can learn. He smiled. Then maybe the galaxy has a chance after all. The strange doorway glowed brighter, and for the first time that morning, the situation no longer felt like confusion. It felt like the beginning